Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Monday, December 14th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi, and hope for an end to the pandemic in the United States on the same day that we reached a deadly milestone. More than 300,000 Americans have died from COVID-19. The news comes as the first shipments of vaccines arrived across the country, including here in San Diego. And as KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer tells us, healthcare workers are the first in line.
Local hospitals across San Diego County are among the first in California to receive their first round of COVID-19 vaccines. The first shipment is part of more than 28,000 vaccines on their way to the region over the next 3 days, which is enough to immunize about 70% of local critical care healthcare workers. A portion of the county's allotment will be delivered to UC San Diego and Tri-City medical centers, while another part of the shipment will be sent to Rady Children's Hospital. Dr. Brian Clay of UC San Diego Health says that they are optimistic to start administering the vaccine as soon as possible.
We do expect to be able to start vaccination this week, and we're very excited about that.
Clay says the surge in COVID-19 cases is stressing the healthcare system, but that they have been preparing to administer the vaccines and ensure that the newly mandated weekly testing of all healthcare staff and patient admissions is followed.
We are getting over 1,000 employees who are undergoing asymptomatic screening with a COVID test every day. So we're doing quite a bit of testing of our workforce, and we think this is very helpful to be able to catch any people who may have COVID but not have symptoms.
As the first doses of the Pfizer vaccine arrived in California today, Governor Gavin Newsom launched Vaccinate All 58, California's campaign for a safe, fair, and equitable vaccine for all 58 counties in the state. The announcement was made as Governor Newsom visited Kaiser Permanente Los Angeles Medical Center, one of the first locations in the state to receive the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine.
That's 4 sites today. Tomorrow, 24 additional sites will receive the vaccine, an additional 5 sites on Wednesday. 33,150 doses were received today here in the state of California, part of the commitment from Pfizer to provide the state of California 327,600 doses.
Further vaccines are likely to come in 3 to 4 weeks to San Diego County and will continue to be used for frontline healthcare workers.
There's a tremendous amount of tracking of the vaccine that has to be done, as well as uploading the information of all those who have been vaccinated so we can keep track of that. In addition, in 21 days from the initial vaccine dosage, they'll receive a second dosage as well.
Help for the pandemic is officially here in San Diego County, but health officials have said it could take until March or April for vaccines to be available for all Americans. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
The vaccine is a real shot in the arm, and a critical care nurse in New York knows that firsthand, said to be the first person in the U.S. to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Sandra Lindsay received the shot today to cheers and applause. Those who get vaccinated will get a second dose in 3 weeks. There have been concerns that the strong reactions to the shot reported by some participants in the clinical trials will put off people from returning for the second dose. Dr. Rodney Hood, a San Diego doctor in California's COVID-19 Scientific Safety Review work group, says it comes down to education.
It's really a positive thing. It's really letting us know that your body immune system is responding. So it is not an unexpected event. It's not an unexpected side effect. But I think if you educate folks about it, there'll be less hesitancy.
Healthcare workers will not be required to get vaccinated if they don't want to yet. San Diego military received its first doses of the coronavirus vaccine. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh says frontline military medical workers will receive the first doses beginning tomorrow.
San Diego's 2 naval hospitals were among the sites to receive the first doses of the Pfizer vaccine. In a teleconference, Rear Admiral Tim Weber, the head of Naval Medical Forces Pacific, says no one will be required to take the vaccine or be reassigned for refusing, at least while it's still undergoing emergency use authorization. Weber stresses the vaccine is safe.
Emergency use authorization has been provided after obviously going through phase 3 trials. So I am absolutely confident about the safety and efficacy of this vaccine.
The Navy won't disclose how many doses arrived. The first rounds will not be enough to vaccinate the thousands of sailors and Marines based in San Diego. Future rounds will go to troops preparing to deploy and eventually to dependents. For now, Weber says,
the first doses of the vaccine will be given to frontline healthcare workers and first responders, including emergency medical services personnel, security forces, and other essential personnel.
Navy Region Southwest remains at Health Protection Charlie, the second highest restriction, but short of near lockdown. The Navy has recorded more than 18,000 COVID cases among sailors since the pandemic began, including 2 deaths. The numbers continue to climb. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
And we are following all the latest developments at kpbs.org. Just click on the Tracking COVID-19 button on your homepage and you'll find online resources like cases by zip code and all our recent reports. Although we've known for weeks that Joe Biden won the 2020 presidential election, today the victory was made official in the Electoral College. As Nadia Romero reports, with President Trump contesting the results, all eyes were on the electors across the country.
In America, politicians don't take power. People grant power to them. The flame of democracy was lit in this nation a long time ago. And we now know nothing, not even a pandemic or an abuse of power, can extinguish that flame.
It's a tradition enshrined in the Constitution that often goes unnoticed.
I will faithfully discharge.
But in 2020, all eyes are on the Electoral College as electors formally cast their ballots for president and vice president. California's 55 electoral votes officially putting Joe Biden over the 270 votes needed to win the presidency, cementing his victory.
For Joseph R. Biden of Delaware, a Democrat, ayes 55. Noes 0.
This just the latest step in the lengthy constitutional process that plays out in every presidential election. Critical as President Trump continues his baseless claims of widespread voter fraud.
It's not over. We keep going and we're going to continue to go forward.
Many GOP leaders have been pointing to the Electoral College certification as the day Joe Biden's win could become official.
The Electoral College will determine the winner, and that person will be sworn in on January 20th.
Yet, despite protests from the president and his supporters, legal experts say the election is over.
This is the day when it all becomes official.
The ballots submitted by the states today will be counted by Congress on January 6. Some congressional Republicans already indicating they may raise objections during the count. Those objections will most likely be rejected by both the House and the Senate, thus paving the way for Joe Biden to take the oath of office on January 20th. In Washington, Nadia Romero, KPBS News.
And some breaking news now from Washington. Attorney General William Barr is stepping down. President Trump made the announcement on Twitter, sharing Barr's letter of resignation submitted today. The president has expressed anger about Barr's statement that the Justice Department had found no widespread election fraud that would change the outcome of the election. Deputy Attorney General Jeff Rosen will take over as acting Attorney General. $1.4 trillion. That is the price tag for the spending bill being unveiled tomorrow. It'll fund federal agencies until the end of September, cutting it pretty close for Congress to avoid another government shutdown by Friday. But party leaders still cannot agree on what any kind of pandemic stimulus should actually look like. So at this point, Congress may have to pass another short-term bill to keep agencies afloat and give more time for relief talks. Federal officials say restrictions on non-essential travel between the U.S. and Mexico will continue through at least until January 21st due to COVID-19. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman says that means businesses in San Ysidro that rely on cross-border traffic will suffer through the holiday season.
This is a border town. This is the border town. We depend mostly on the that side of, mostly. Not everything, but mostly. So if they're not crossing, people are not crossing, who are we going to sell? It's simple.
In San Ysidro, Sunny Perfumes and Maya's Gourmet Pizza owner Sunil Gakrea says business near the border has been slow.
Oh, I don't even compare it. It's too bad, very bad. Last year, if you were to come in December time, you can't even walk straight. There's no parking. Everyone is doing good, But right now, I'm here and talking to you.
Gakrea relies on the holiday season to bring in the bulk of his sales at his perfume shop.
This is a money maker right now, this month. And nothing going on.
He estimates as much as 90% of his business comes from across the border.
Now what they have to rely on other people who can cross, so they're sending someone for the perfume place. But this one, they have to come to eat.
Just a year ago, he opened up Maya's Gourmet Pizza, but business there has not been easy either, with months of COVID-19 restrictions.
Like hardly surviving, one business, then you open other business, you want to do good, you want to grow, But now instead of growing, you're going down, down, down.
Gakrea has been trying to adapt, recently putting in these 2 patios, but under the new stay-at-home order, outdoor dining is prohibited.
I'm sorry, this is like ridiculous, like who said that's the word, doesn't make sense, You've been training us for 9 months, oh, do that, and we're following everything. And now suddenly say, oh, you cannot even do that.
He's had to lay off 3 employees, but does not want to close.
Hopefully that's the thing is we have to hold it, because I have invested so much. I'm invested financially, emotionally, So I cannot just let it go.
Gakrea is hopeful that news of a vaccine will bring in business, but realizes it's going to be a long recovery.
And it doesn't mean one day open is going to be back on the track. It takes time. It takes time.
He says by now people know how to protect themselves from the virus and wishes officials would allow more people to cross into the United States. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
For years, Friendship Park on the U.S.-Mexico border has connected communities in the 2 countries through good times and bad. Now, KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler tells us the Border Patrol plans to replace the border wall on the site, drastically altering the park's landscape.
Friendship Park on the U.S.-Mexico border adjacent to the Pacific Ocean has tied the binational community together, sharing prayer services, gardens, family reunions, and even sports. But in the waning days of the Trump administration, Border Patrol has told the stewards of the park that it plans to quickly replace the 2 fences that line it, replacing them with 30-foot-high bollards.
It's a further desecration of this historic location. The location was designed to be a binational meeting place. It's been frequented by people for generations.
John Fanistil is with the Friends of Friendship Park.
The whole purpose of the place is binational encounter, and to build these intimidating walls and to make it feel more and more like you have to, almost like you're visiting in prison for people who want to visit at this location, is to really undermine the spirit of the place.
In January of this year, Border Patrol demolished the U.S. side of the Friendship Garden. It soon said that the demolition was unintentional and pledged to restore the garden. Miles of replacement and new border fence built during the Trump administration under an emergency declaration now cross mountains and valleys across San Diego County, cutting through open spaces.
It ever so slightly still feels like a park when you arrive at Friendship Park. But if they put up these bollard-style walls at that secondary location, that exterior wall, it'll just change the visibility and the perspective of the park altogether. It will feel like walking into a dungeon.
Advocates for Friendship Park hope the incoming Biden administration will not follow through on any contracts signed by the Trump administration. Border Patrol told KPBS it plans to award contracts in the coming weeks, with the project to be completed by late 2021. Max Rivlin-Nadler, KPBS News.
Governor Gavin Newsom is facing a possible recall election amid anger over new stay-at-home orders and the impression that the governor doesn't practice what he preaches. Organizers say they have collected more than half of the nearly 1.5 million signatures needed to put the recall on the ballot. They have until mid-March to gather petition signatures. Organizers say the effort gained steam after photos showed Newsom dining with friends at a fancy restaurant while telling Californians not to socialize. Today, election workers began a manual recount of a city council race in Santee. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says it came down to just a handful of votes.
The recount was requested and is being paid for by the San Diego County Democratic Party. The party's endorsed candidate, Sam Hurst, lost the Santee City Council District 4 race by just 5 votes. The declared winner, Republican Dustin Trotter, has already been sworn in. He says the Registrar of Voters is doing a great job, and the outcome of the recount is in God's hands.
It just shows that every vote counts, and that this is an awesome process that we were able to go through. Nationally, the voter turnout and local here in San Diego was well above average, and I'm super happy to know that the people exercised their right to vote, and they got out to vote on November 3rd.
Of particular interest in the recount are 36 ballots that weren't included in the original tally, for reasons including missing or mismatched signatures or a postmark after Election Day. Observers supporting either candidate can challenge the original decisions on those ballots. Registrar of Voters Michael Vu will decide how to handle those challenges and whether they'll change the race's outcome. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
San Diego researchers think plants may offer a significant way to draw down excess carbon in the air. That carbon is feeding a cycle that's warming the planet's climate. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson says there is a lot riding on the local research.
Okay.
Greenhouse manager McKenna Hopwood opens a door to what she jokingly calls the meat locker.
This is all corn.
Bags of drying plants, both stalks and roots, hang from the ceiling like slabs of meat in a cooler. But of course, they're plants.
These have all been root washed and then processed, and then they've been drying for about a week. Depending on the crop, we'll dry them for about a week to 2 weeks, and then we'll throw them in the plant drying oven for a day or two, and then we'll do our biomass weights.
This is the final stop for plants raised in the Salk greenhouse. Hopwood is constantly growing several different plant species here.
Some plants don't really like to be watered from the top, and these ones are really sensitive, so if they have soil that gets tossed into the middle of the plant, they won't produce their flower, so we have to bottom water them. Or mist them very lightly, which just takes a really long time.
Some of these plants grow fast, seed to harvest in a few months. Others are crop plants like corn, soybeans, and wheat. Add in sorghum, rice, and canola, and that's most of the popular food crops grown in the world. Total plant acreage is about the size of India.
One of the biggest challenges, we think, and the biggest threat for humanity is the climate crisis.
Wolfgang Busch is looking for ways to make these widely used plants a lot better at moving carbon from the air and storing it deeper in the ground. He's using millions of dollars in grants to develop longer and deeper root systems. And they are the key to storing carbon that the burning of fossil fuels spews into the air.
And we're trying to find mechanisms, genetic recipes, if you want, so to actually make better plants or make plants better in storing larger amounts of carbon underground for longer in the soil.
Busch hopes to find the right combination of gene manipulation and breeding and the transfer of desirable traits from other plants to make those 6 crops better at carbon sequestration. Busch says they represent a short-term answer to a long-term problem.
And there are currently only actually no really scalable methods to draw down carbon dioxide except from plants. So if you think about this in the long run, this technology will enable a carbon drawdown that is really urgently needed to get back to carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere that are safe for us.
But the clock is ticking. The planet's average temperature continues to climb at dramatic rates. Busch says it'll still be about 5 years before he's likely to develop the plants that he's confident will help. It could be 15 years before enough of those plants are planted to make a difference.
I think we can, but we're really right on the edge.
Salk researcher Joanne Corey, who's been living with Parkinson's disease for 15 years, says temperatures are rising because people push more carbon dioxide into the air than what the planet can account for. She understands the urgency, but remains hopeful.
So you don't have to fix everything in the climate. You only have to get those 18 gigatons that the Earth can't deal with. And so that's a small part of what plants push around on a regular seasonal basis, right? They're pushing around more like 800 gigatons.
Corey thinks plants can pull about 4 gigatons of that extra carbon out of the air and put it into the soil. Building out more renewable energy and making cars electric could help too, but those transitions will take time. Corey thinks developing plants that can move the carbon out of the plant sugars and into non-biodegradable polymers buried deep in roots could buy some time until other solutions come along. McKenna Hopwood is spending that time in search of a scalable solution in the Salk greenhouse.
I'll take some wheat right here. It's been growing a little long. This is longer than preferred. And then you just take this guy, transplant it in, and you cover it with our calcined substrate. And there you go.
But success here and in the lab will have to be duplicated on a global scale. Researchers are confident the science will help them improve the plants, but they don't share that optimism about governments and farmers, who will have to implement the solution before the climate gets too warm. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
A little bit of wet weather in the area during the morning hours as a trough moved across our region. That trough is pulling rapidly away, and we'll be looking at some gradual warming over the next couple of days, Tuesday and into Wednesday. There will be another fast-moving trough sweeping through here Thursday. It'll be a quick hitter, and we would see another day similar to Monday with a little bit of damp weather early in the morning. And once that passes, it looks like sunshine returns Friday into the weekend. It should be pretty nice. Never too early to talk about the weekend, is it? Well, as we take a look at our temperatures tonight, we're down in the mid-30s in Oceanside, mid-40s. San Diego, Ramona, kind of nippy tonight, down to 28, and El Cajon's at 41. Taking a look at the weather for tomorrow, well, it's pretty quiet. We have high pressure building in. Dry, and it looks like some seasonable temperatures. All the moisture as well to our north. Parade of storms hitting the northwest pretty hard this week. As we take a look at our weather, it's beautiful. Sunshine in Oceanside, San Diego, 68, Ramona, 66, El Cajon, 73, and Borrego Springs right there at 70 degrees. On Wednesday, well, another dry day is expected. Again, to the north, that's where we see our parade of storm systems, one after another. But for us, we're staying dry. So looking at our forecast, pretty nice here Tuesday into Wednesday. Next trough comes through Thursday, maybe a little hanky-panky early in the morning. Maybe a drizzle, touch of showers, and then after that it looks pretty nice. As we head to the inland areas, quite pleasant. Then it turns cooler Thursday, and as we get away up to the mountains, you can see it's windy and cooler here Thursday as that trough moves through. And we'll see a little change too in the deserts. Temperatures dip into the 60s for the end of the week. And for KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Biancuso.
On many fronts, this has been a tough year, but for the bike business, 2020 has been a banner year. KPBS video journalist Matthew Bowler takes us inside one of San Diego's busiest neighborhood bike shops, MJ Cyclery in Hillcrest, for this pandemic profile.
MJ Cyclery, this is Andrew. I've worked here just about a year now. I had 2 different jobs. I was here half-time, and then I was up at a restaurant up in UTC at the mall. First closed down, I got let go of that job, and then I went full-time here. And then 2 of our co-workers, one had to go take care of family, the other one's staying at home because they have elderly members there and they don't want to expose them to COVID. Hello, come on in. What's going on today?
I think it's just a tweaker of just my front derailleur.
Let me just throw it in the stand real quick. Okay, so everything looks good now. It shifts up just fine. It doesn't rub when you're in the max over here, so I am gonna clean up your chain real quick. Our stock went from the floor being filled to nothing, and then to being filled with just service bikes. I sit on the computer for hours just trying to find parts. That was a short-lived bike here. After tax, it puts you at $9.42 and 81 cents. Tons of back orders of just stuff waiting. About 100 or so bikes on order, and we ordered most of those bikes 6+ months ago. Really hard to get just kind of anything you need. Tubes were in really high demand. Chains, tires, you name it. It was hard for a while. It had just been 3 of us, but just 3 of us just going, and just getting it done the best we can.
But yeah, man, if I could ride my bike occasionally, I would seriously be in the loony bin or drink a lot more alcohol.
And here's another look at today's top story. The first doses of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine were shipped to hospitals across the country today, including here in San Diego. The county is getting 28,000 shots over the next 3 days. Healthcare workers will be the first to get vaccinated. It could be March or April before the vaccine is available to all Americans. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.